Hi folks, welcome to the latest edition of Serverless Craic. With myself, Dave Anderson. I'm a technical fellow at Bizarre Voice, author and contributor at the Serverless Edge.
Mark McCann, architect at Globalization Partners, author and contributor at Serverless Edge.
Michael O'Reilly, an architect with Globalization Partners and contributor of Serverless Edge. Hello.
Good stuff. So we've just started a meetup in Belfast ourselves and a few other kind of friends, Matt Coulter, Gillian Armstrong, Gillian McCann, and Gareth Gilmore. Really, it's called Belfast, which is a funny name, but really just a community meetup in Belfast that you talk about all things AWS. And a really good event. It was great to see everyone in person. I think we had about 50 people there. That's something was just really, we had an open space, which is very conversational. And part of the open space format is we get everyone in, we kind of started to have the chat and then basically said, what do you want to talk about? And there was 4 topics: getting started, serverless, quality architecture, and data and ML. But the getting started track actually was really busy. And we kind of thought it would be a good thing to talk about. I mean, well, the meetup was great crack, first of all, but Mark, you were kind of, you were in the middle of the getting started track. I mean, I was in there for a wee while. It was good conversation.
It was great conversation, and a good mix of people from different sort of backgrounds and different levels of experience. But I think we've seen it throughout all of the topics and all of the conversations was there was a need for guidance on how to get started, how do you set up your account, how do you learn, how do you build your career, who do you reach out to, and once you're more familiar, what do you then start to leverage to build more higher order systems and bigger, more solutions, right? So a lot of great conversations around, lots of just getting started guidance and advice, and there was lots of good feedback and lots of good interactions. And I think everyone's sort of somewhere on that journey. And I think one of the big things that really came out was that we're all still learning. We're all getting started in some area. There's no, hey, AWS now, you just can't know it all, right? So we all have to continue to learn and continue to have a growth sort of mindset around this stuff, because you just can't stay still. You got to continuously learn. So we can all empathize with the new person starting on day one, never heard of the cloud or never heard of AWS, because in certain areas of the cloud and certain areas of AWS, we're all just getting started.
Yeah.
And it changes so rapidly as well.
Yeah. I mean, it was awesome kind of just to be in an event with real people again, post-pandemic. And you're right, there definitely was a spectrum, Mark, like there was conversation around people looking to get started in the AI or, machine learning. And again, different kettle of fish if you're just kind of getting going with cloud and stuff as well. I mean, what sort of topics? I know you were in that kind of channel. It's always kind of nerve-wracking with, again, as an organizer with open spaces, no matter how many times you do it, you know it works. It's class. You get the topics, you get the things people want to know about, and so I was nervous. I was nervous how, what you want to get. But what came up? Or
so the broader topics were around just general getting started guidance and advice, right? There was the education journey. How do you educate yourselves, and where do you go look for educational stuff? The certifications come up a lot. Are they valuable? Was one of the questions that directly came up, which is a good one. Something that we can have a good conversation around. Workshops, right? So what workshops can sort of guide me through some of the getting started stuff, and then the community. How do you be part of the community? How do you get involved in the community? How can I tap into the community or leverage the community for to help me and help my organizations? And then some of the later conversations around those patterns, those enabling building blocks that can help you build more complicated sort of, once you've got started, once you've got your account set up, I want to wire up an API gateway with a Dynamo and a Lambda. Is there some guidance that helps me with that? So the patterns can come in there. So from a getting started point of view, like a lot of standard advice is, if you do set up your account, turn on multi-factor authentication. Set your budget for something reasonably low. Set your alarms and your actions for that. It notifies you if you've gone over $10. There's a very healthy fruit here, but there is always that fruit gun moment that you need to be very aware of, that we've all been through.
Yeah, if you're deploying stacks in multiple regions, make sure you kind of throw them down in those regions as well. If you're just playing around with stuff. There's
nothing more terrifying than you thinking, hey, my bill's now a couple £100 and I'm a little student living in a 1-bedroom bedsit and I can't afford a couple £100, right? So you want to protect against that. There's also we talked about AWS support are very, very good at helping resolve some of this. We've all had colleagues or friends who've run up an unexpected bill deploying something, and AWS support have been very, very good if you're nice to them. So don't sit worrying about this stuff. If you've truly have accidentally run up a significant bill, reach out to the support. They'll help you. But again, we'll put links in the notes here about getting started, sort of good practices and guidance. But make sure you secure your account, make sure you set your budgets, and make sure you have your alarms set so that if you go over a certain amount, it's emailing you or texting you or whatever.
Yeah.
And it is quite daunting when you stick in aws.com and there's just an ocean of stuff on the website. But again, if you sign up, do something relatively straightforward, follow Craic Lab. It's not too bad to do something simple.
Yeah.
And then it's just iterative. Follow lab, do something, explore it, and then just keep building yourself up step by step. It's hard to eat the elephant one bite at a time.
No, it is that. It's keeping your world small. It's like we talk about that quite a bit, with continuous improvement and or even with building up that sort of experience. It's it's hard not to get overwhelmed with the services that are on offer, and I think that's probably where certifications are quite good. I think if you're genuinely interested in just getting a good broad perspective, it's probably worth sitting down and taking the time to do a certification. I think sometimes you can, if you're lucky enough to be in somewhere where you're kind of getting good levels of exposure and stuff like that, you can probably you can learn as you go and learn on the job. But certifications are good in terms of being able to sit down and take it a topic at a time and understand kind of what services for what and how the cloud's actually set up. So that's maybe that's something that I would recommend.
Yeah, and the pathways through sort of education and certification have been broadened out to meet their different user needs, right? So there's the cloud practitioner one's a great one for just somebody getting started and just wants to understand what capabilities are available, right? Once you get up into the associate level ones and the professional level ones and the specialist sort of certifications, they're a bit more in depth and there's a bit more of a learning curve there, but all of them are hugely valuable, and it's a nice structured guidance through the areas that you should be worried about, right? And one of the things that did come up when we did this was around well architected, and and you'll see this, and once you start delving into this, right? Those well architected pillars are pretty much throughout all the educational material, they're throughout all the certification stuff, they're throughout all the sort of the white papers and the guides, right? So security, cost optimization, reliability, performance, cost management, and sustainability now, right? They're all part of all the educational stuff. And from an educational track point of view, what we used and what I used a lot was a Cloud Guru, but now more recently there's the skill builder that AWS provides that's freely available. The Udemy courses that are really good. So there's never been a better time to learn about the cloud, learn about AWS. I know the other ones have, other clouds have similar sort of educational materials, but the stuff that's freely available now is just fantastic.
Yeah, and those certifications are obviously the AWS official certifications, and sometimes certifications get a bad rap, but I think those certs are absolutely brilliant. The thing I really like about them is, as you're saying, Mark, most of them have a foundational of you have to read the foundational white papers. There's a white paper on well architected, there's one I think secure by design, there's one about the principles of kind of cloud and elasticity and ephemeral behavior and all that stuff. There's I think there's 4 or 5 really core white papers that are just worth reading for anybody, and you can tell people who don't understand those concepts because everything else is built on them. So even if you attempt certification and you read those white papers, it's still beneficial, and they're free PDFs. You can download them. Maybe we'll post those in.
I think one of the huge benefits of that is, especially when you're a bit more on your journey, especially if you're in an organization that's in the cloud, it gives you that shared vocabulary, gives you that shared understanding across teams, right? So if you're a manager or somebody who's not maybe hands-on or that they're technical anymore, doing the cloud practitioner will give you that vocabulary to have a conversation with your team about scale or these services, and allows you to be better informed and have more situational awareness about
I think the certifications, I know you go deep and you go broad on a lot of the topics, but I think for me the real learning is you go and build something, get into a workshop, Go
Yeah.
and follow one of the
Yeah.
kind of the various kind of AWS workshops or whatever cloud provider in their workshops there. That's that stuff I think just tends to stick a wee bit more with me, you know, and I kind of, if I want to learn something, that's what I'll be doing, you know.
Yeah, and it's been fantastic. A lot of the developer advocates have, and AWS in general, have been great at sort of starting to codify some of their getting started workshops. And some of the workshops that were only available at, say, a reInvent or one of the big conferences are now freely available. So if you go to aws.workshops, you'll see a whole collection of them in there, right? So I think once you've got your account set up, you've got your multi-factor authentication, then you've got your budget set, you're doing some of those serverless workshops are a great way to sort of get yourself familiar with how to provision some of these things, run some load through it, and see how you go.
Yeah, and there's definitely something about I always thought it was funny because when you do workshops like that, there's always some kind of funky solution to how the workshop runs, because a lot of the stuff is quite native to AWS itself. It's really the whole idea of AWS is that you stand something up, do it, and blow it away, and it just fits perfect for a workshop. So it's completely automated and not as hokey as some other vendors. So the workshops are brilliant. They're always very smooth and really well put together and really well designed.
Yeah,
100%.
And then the community is also really good as well, like, because you've got all the AWS heroes, the community builders, and the developer advocates. There is it's a large community. It's actually quite a small community. It's a handful of people who are putting out all this kind of really good content, and it's not that hard to track them down on Twitter. So it's really worth kind of tapping that community as well. And some of the people in the community will have very specific advanced things, but others will focus on teaching people the basics of the cloud. Maybe creating those workshops, writing a getting started guide, maybe doing specific videos on YouTube about explaining different concepts. So again, a wealth of material that's mostly for free, because a lot of them do work for either training companies or AWS. So it's in their nature to go out there and create free content. So it's insane.
Yeah. No, and a lot of that stuff is born out of stuff that's going on within the organization they work into, or so it's almost like production hardened or battle hardened type advice and guidance and tutorials. So it's I mean, it's always good to keep the eye on what they're doing and what messages they're kind of pushing. You
can see their customer obsession leadership principle at work. They are very, very willing to engage and respond and help anybody who reaches out to them. So kudos to them, like the developer advocates, the community builders, the heroes. They're all they really do live a lot of that customer obsession sort of mantra for real.
Yeah, definitely. And then probably the last thing which is interesting, is that close to our heart, is the whole idea of patterns. Obviously, Matt Coulter's got CDK patterns. You've got a bunch of patterns on the serverless land site, and this is something that we're all very close to, because when you start to codify a certain architectural pattern in like a CDK pattern or something you can just execute, it's a great way, for one, to get a real acceleration to get something up and running, but two, to actually look inside the pattern, see how it's put together. So it's a brilliant way of learning.
Yeah, totally agree. I think as you start to wire some of these capabilities and services together, so you want to wire, I don't know, API gateway with a Lambda and then store some data in DynamoDB. There's a pattern for that that'll show you how it's done in a well-architected way. Right, so that's a massive food up for how do I build solutions? How do I build things that actually deliver a broad range of value to somebody? That's a huge sort of enabling building block that you can just pick off the shelf and leverage.
And the thing that like when I started coding in the last millennium, you'd buy a book that would have a picture of a reference architecture. You spend like days trying to work out what the picture meant, and then you sit and literally try and apply that picture to your solution. It could take you weeks or months, and you probably wouldn't get it right. And now you can literally run a one-line command and have something up and running in 2 or 3 minutes. It's absolutely insane. So it's like an executable pattern over a picture in a book. Now, the picture in a book's still nice, but it's a lot of work to make it work.
Yeah, and one of the things we talked about in the group was around these things are now democratized. So there's no barriers to entry now that there was 20 years ago to the latest and greatest tech. These things are available to you as a brand new graduate, as they are to a seasoned engineer with 25 years experience. So there's a level playing field here. So people, the little developer and the experts from Northern Ireland can have the same impact as some guy in Silicon Valley or some girl in Silicon Valley. So it really has democratized a lot of these things for us all.
Well, the other thing I would just add on that, just one quick point, is I think with the patterns and kind of looking at like the CDK and the serverless land stuff, is it helps. There's lots of good, those patterns, they're all kind of built on the developer enabling frameworks. So some of them will be built on CDK, some of those might leverage SAM or the serverless framework, so it's good to kind of, begin to play around with some of those and understand what each one of them may give you or give you your scenario, so I think those sorts of spaces and areas can kind of help you, begin to learn and develop preference with regards to those types of things as well, which will definitely help you in the long run. You don't want to be doing things in consoles or, coding raw cloud formation. So those types of things can be certainly give you a wee bit of extra horsepower.
And the other thing is as well, it's never too late. I've met a few people who've come into the cloud, like either as a mature or career switched. It's never too late to start learning this stuff.
No.
And kind of playing with it. It's actually, I would even argue, the later you do it, the better, because you can. The early stuff is usually a bit funky. It's more refined. This is more mature. So if you haven't delved into AWS, I mean, there's no reason to hold back. Don't think you've missed the boat. I would definitely just start out there and absorbing all these fantastic resources. Speaking of which, we'll stick all these links in the podcast and on a blog post. So that's the crack. That was useful. That was we really enjoyed the meetup, and we'll have another one soon enough. Lots of interesting stuff there. All right, so we can see on Twitter we're at serverlesssedge.com at Serverless Edge, and the blog is the serverlessedge.com. All right, thanks very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.